KSante is a tank champion that fits the meta quite perfectly. And because of this, many top laners from all skill levels have added KSante to their champion pool, but there's one KSante player in particular who dominates in high elo with an extremely proactive carry playstyle. Being able to solo carry is one of the most important aspects of playing solo queue, and this master tier player has been spamming KSante right from the start. They've already gained 140 extra LP with this champion, and they are still refining their mechanics. But most intriguingly, after experimenting with a standard grasp of the Undying rune page, this KSante player actually started to play Conqueror, and it makes a big difference. You will get a complete breakdown of how this player utilizes Conqueror KSante in just a second, but first I want to give you the full rune and item setup so you can put it to good use yourself. The rune page is Conqueror, Triumph, Legend Alacrity and Last Stand, with Conditioning and Overgrowth secondary. You always want the attack speed shard, but whether you go for extra armor or extra magic resist depends on your top lane matchup. Grasp of the Undying is the traditional keystone for melee top lane tanks, so it is understandable why many people are picking it. The rune would help KSante to sustain through his mediocre laning phase, while also providing extra tankiness for late game teamfights. But when you consider how KSante works as a champion, Conqueror suddenly makes so much more sense. The first big reason is that KSante doesn't really want to go for smaller exchanges to begin with, but instead thrives during all-in situations. Because then he can get maximum value from his Q and his passive, all while stacking Conqueror quite effortlessly at the same time. This and the fact that his Q comes with an actual AD ratio makes the damage from Conqueror highly relevant, and in longer fights even the healing will rival that of Grasp of the Undying. But the biggest payoff for Conqueror is actually the precision path itself. Let me explain. While it is true that KSante is a full tank champion, he has some very unique synergies with multiple runes on the precision path, and you want to take advantage of all of them. Well, the first one is a no-brainer. Tanks love the rune Triumph, and KSante is no exception. The longevity it provides during longer teamfights is absolutely invaluable for a tank, but KSante will always be on super low health after his ultimate ends, making the percent healing even more impactful on him. Tanks that opt for precision secondary usually go for this in combination with Legend Tenacity, however KSante wants to have Legend Alacrity instead. Weaving in your auto attacks between your spells is always important, but on KSante you absolutely have to be able to do this fast and consistently, since your passive largely contributes to KSante's presence in any fight. Yet the last rune on the precision path is actually the most interesting one, as it is this very rune that truly unlocks KSante's full carry potential. Tanks are no strangers to fighting on low HP, but you have to keep in mind that KSante actively reduces his own health as soon as you cast his ultimate. This means not only do you now get all the offensive stats from your R itself, but you also multiply that power by the damage increase from Last Stand. The rune fully works with your ultimate's HP sacrifice, and your damage will look like that from an assassin because of it. However, you don't even lose that much tankiness, even though your rune page might look greedily aggressive at first glance. You still have your secondary path with conditioning for late game resistances and overgrowth for late game health. The third rune you would be getting from Resolve as a primary path wouldn't help much during combat anyway. Your item build is still full tank, since that's exactly what KSante needs to scale his spells. Taking a formulaic approach to tank itemization is not exactly smart, because as a tank player you will have to adapt to the opposing team rather dynamically. But as a rule of thumb, this master KSante player goes for Iceborne Gauntlet first against an AD top laner, and for Force of Nature against top lane AP. If the enemy is not really a threat, or if they deal mixed damage, you start with Sunfire for mixed resistances and lane priority. Due to its stat profile, combat presence and help with wave clear, Sunfire is usually bought second in any matchup if it wasn't already bought first. Iceborne's Spellblade has inherent synergy with KSante's fighting patterns, as you have to auto for passive triggers anyway. However, if you didn't rush Iceborne and don't rely on its armor, Jak'Sho the Protean is also a strong mythic item on KSante. As for your late game, you have to mix and match the other tank items depending on which enemy champions are fed, so they would demand specific itemization against them. But theory can only get you so far, of course. Let's now jump into the actual analysis. The lane matchup is KSante vs Gangplank, which makes for interesting dynamics. Both champions are weakest during the early game, but KSante peaks in the mid game, whereas Gangplank essentially never stops scaling. This means that our KSante player here really needs to make the mid-game count, but on the other hand, they don't need to worry about their lane phase too much. KSante started with Doran's shield here to help with Gangplank's poke damage from Q and barrels, which are the #1 threats KSante needs to worry about. You can use your shield to block some of the Q damage, and the extra mobility can also be useful to potentially get out of barrel range. However, KSante will not be able to prevent Gangplank from freely stacking his Grasp of the Undying. But Gangplank doesn't have a free lane here by any means. Sure, he has the range advantage most of the time, yet if he fails to respect KSante's Q3 knockback, he will get punished. Gangplank is very lucky he got away with his life there. With KSante's dash to Q3 combo, GP has no chance to dodge the engage on reaction, which means he is forced in an all-in situation. This heavily favors KSante of course, since here you can make full use of your passive, your keystone and also the damage boost from Last Stand, ultimately forcing out Gangplank's flash. Now despite not getting the kill, KSante can still use the resulting lane priority to push the wave all the way into tower and then get an advantageous recall. Gangplank on the other hand did not have time to recall, unless he wanted to ruin the state of the minion wave for himself, but he instantly gets punished by the very same dash Q combo. Even without the knockback, if you can land that 80% slow on the opponent, a flashless Gangplank is not going anywhere. This is a premium example of how seemingly small mistakes can snowball the top lane 1v1 out of control. Due to the accumulating gold difference, KSante eventually gets to complete his first item before Gangplank does, making the margin for error even smaller than it already was. The slow from Gauntlet makes it impossible for Gangplank to escape, and here we can clearly see how powerful the combination of KSante's Q and a Spellblade effect truly is. Okay, so this heavy all-in style allowed our KSante player here to win the lane. But now what? Is he actually tanky enough to do his job in the mid and late game as well? I mean, it should be obvious. KSante is still buying tank items, and the little bit of health he lost from not going Grasp is more than compensated for by the sheer power of Conqueror and Last Stand. However, as you can see, the game is going anything but smoothly, since KSante's bot lane is hard feeding and the enemy bot and jungle are getting fed. If he wants to win, he has to use his own lead in top lane to somehow compensate for two useless teammates, which is very difficult for a full tank. But Conqueror KSante is not holding back. With his crowd control immunity, he has a guaranteed engage, and after going all out on the enemy Varus, he can kill the opposing bot lane before their massive gold lead even matters. Now the game is far from over, since map pressure is barely even at this point, and the enemy Hecarim is still hyper-fed. KSante absolutely has to take Varus and Renata out of any fights, because with Hecarim protecting them, they could simply plow through KSante's entire team if he's not careful. In fact, Hecarim has just picked off KSante's AD carry again and is claiming yet another dragon. So the question remains, can a top lane tank actually carry? KSante literally has the mobility of an assassin, and by crucially saving his ultimate for the fed Varus, he also has the damage output of an assassin. The fact you lose a big portion of your tankiness hardly matters when you can in return just one-shot the opposing damage dealer. With a fully stacked Conqueror and Last Stand, even through shield bow, no problem. Now blue team can finally crack the map wide open, since KSante's carry potential in teamfights gives his weak allies a lot of breathing room. This actually means that KSante's underfed teammates are really not that much behind anymore. And with that in mind, please have a look at how KSante plays this next teamfight. He essentially only went through one basic spell rotation and then immediately pressed his ult button. Throwing away half your health that early is super risky, but by forcing the enemy to instantly react to your play, you create a huge opening for your allies, who are now strong enough to take advantage. This means that afterwards, KSante's team can finally truly pull ahead by taking crucial objectives. They managed to put huge pressure on the opponent's base as a consequence, but then just see for yourselves. Yes, that was essentially a 1v5 pentakill. It should be self-explanatory why this master tier top laner has added KSante to their champion pool right away. Tanks are absurdly strong right now, but unlike other tanks, KSante doesn't even need damage support from his team. Especially with Conqueror and Last Stand, both of which having much higher combat value than Grasp plus whatever else you want to get from the Resolve path. Like any tank, KSante is unkillable in the current meta, but unlike any other tank, he turns into a brutal killing machine just by pressing a single button. And yes, you saw that correctly. He really just did it again. This channel started as an AD carry channel, but as you can see, I am beginning to branch out, so make yourself at home. Got lots of educational League of Legends content for all roles and playstyles in the making, but in the meantime, feel free to check out my video on League's stat websites. It's probably my best video so far and relevant to each and every solo queue player.